This is my HBO Max profile. I have shared my password with dozens of people and told them to use any profile, except Chet. If they click on Chet, they will be taken to a locked kids profile set to TVG, which they cannot exit without obtaining a PIN number from me, which I entered without looking and have no way of ever remembering. I do this to feel. Modern day Bluebeard. God, I love we're enemies, but we've been enemies for a long time, which is sort of like being friends. Great trope. Especially when it comes with the side of, this other enemy isn't being your enemy in the right way. I will help you defeat them so that I can go back to being your primary enemy, your correct enemy. No one opposes you like I do, baby.
Happy International Women's Day from Elmo!
You have poisoned the minds of young boys for generations, vilifying masculinity and what it means to be a man. May you and your Sesame Street become reduced to a pile of burning rubble. Up yours, vile creature. Well, he seems nice. Who beefs with Elmo? In time travel movies, when the time traveler asks, "What year is this?" they're always treated like they're being weird for asking. When in reality, if you go, "What year is this?" people will just say, 2024. Crazy, huh? And you go, WTF, where has my youth gone? And if you ask, in what month? People won't judge you. They'll just go like, September, can you believe it? And you go, what? Last time I checked, we were in May. That is a great point, especially if you time travel to a period of big historical events, when everybody's looking a little wild about the eyes. Hey, what month is it? January already, can you believe it? I swear, I was just at Pompeii, but no one's going there again. Imagine if you were a rich housewife suspicious that your husband was cheating on you, and you hired a private investigator to follow him, and the PI came back with a ream of Polaroids of himself railing your husband. Wouldn't that be messed up? Option 1. The PI has been banging your husband all along, and took this job in the first place as some sort of power move. Option 2. The PI was hired to get evidence of your husband cheating, but they couldn't find any, so they were worried about disappointing you and or not getting paid, so they seduced your husband in order to create some evidence. I'm watching a speedrun of some dumb backrooms game, and this tutorial tip it gives you is killing me. Use almond water to restore your sanity. The YouTube monsters they added to the backrooms watching me drink almond water. For those wondering why almond water, earlier stories about the backrooms mention an almond smell. Now, a bunch of people who don't know how to do horror well seem to have jumped to the idea that this almond smell is some magic cure-all almond water. It should be noted that an almond smell is a common sign of cyanide, which flew over those people's heads. Almond water, she's so pretentious. Shut up, it's freaking cyanide. Almond water. The Backrooms is the perfect example of why the official SCP submissions are so heavily moderated. PSA to chasers, it may be tempting, but I'd advise to stay away from Keaton Beach in Florida. Law enforcement does not want us there, and has threatened to take chasers to jail immediately before any questions asked to multiple chasers in previous storms. Stand up to those jerks. I've been threatened with jail also. Can't take you to jail without RAS of a crime, hurricane or not. We have a great lawyer, so a simple exchange of business cards with the words, I will sue and you will lose, let's settle up. I always get let go. Storm chasers affirming their civil right to maniacally drive directly into natural disasters versus Florida cops. Helene edition, shaping up to be a good watch. Not what I thought when I saw PSA to chasers. Would y'all ever date someone with the same name as you? I'm sorry for adding directly to a post, but I went to a wedding once where the groom's name was Lauren and the bride's name was Lauren. And at the end, the officiant was all introducing Lauren's surname and Lauren's surname, husband and wife, and the entire assembled lost it. Also sorry for adding on, but at my high school, there was a Dominic and a Dominique who were dating, and everyone just called them Dom and Dahmer, which is honestly the funniest crap ever. Executive dysfunction is legitimately physically uncomfortable. I'll be trapped between two things, weirdly caught on how much time it might take me. I take hours worried I'm going to take hours doing things. I'll sit on the floor for the entire day, caught up in the middle of not doing the chores I actually do want to be doing. And the amount of mental energy that goes into it. and the legitimate amount of anger and discomfort and self-hate. It's not being lazy. It'd be a lot less work if I didn't have to fight myself to just get up and do it. I just need you to understand it's not effortless. It's never effortless. It's not, okay, let me just get up and finally start doing this. It's more like, I am slamming my foot on the pedal, but the car is in neutral and nothing is moving. It's more like shouting instructions into a dying telephone. It's more like being trapped in a small electric box and someone who hates me is administering shocks. I'm trying. Please help me get up. Scientists have discovered how to make glow-in-the-dark cats by inserting the jellyfish genes that create fluorescent proteins into feline eggs. I needed to check that this was real, and apparently it is. What's more, the end goal in these experiments was to fight feline AIDS. Creating glow-in-the-dark cats was a side effect. That might be the greatest sentence I write this year. Okay, so the short version is that scientists want to insert a useful gene, but they have no way of knowing if the useful gene actually got incorporated into the cat's or other animal's DNA. So they glue the glow gene to the useful gene. If the animal glows, both genes got inserted successfully. My mom just had a 7-centimeter brain tumor removed, and since she's woken up, she's been talking non-stop about this dream she had about going to an art gallery full of colorful paintings by a homosexual artist named Klimsdorf, who was ethereal and wise, both young and old. At first, she was convinced he was a real person, but after failing to find him online, she's accepted he was a figment of her subconscious mind, and is now determined to bring him to life via painting his portrait herself. She's 67 and has never drawn in her life. And now this, Blorbo from her tumor. Me as a hotel receptionist, greets guests by playing Hotel California, but cutting it off right before they say California. Me presenting my rock collection, plays the start of Roxanne, but cuts it off right before the Anne. As a kid, I never appreciated the comedic genius of my elementary school principal, who, whenever our school won against another school in a sport, would play what felt like 2 minutes of "We Are the Champions" over the PA during announcements. And just as it's going, "'Cause we are the champions of..." he'd hit stop, and his deadpan voice over the PA system would go, "Brampton." We had a middle school dance DJ who would do something similar with Party in the USA. He'd play the chorus like, "Yeah, it's a party in the..." and then stop the music and just say, "School." This is so flipping funny. Okay, so I'm taking a genetics class right now, and in lab we've been given fruit flies with different mutations that we need to breed over the course of the semester. Now, first thing I learned, fruit flies don't eat fruit. They eat yeast. They eat the yeast on fermenting fruit. They cannot actually eat fruit. Their name is a lie. Secondly, one of the 2 mutant lines I was given cross are flies with the Apterus mutation, aka they are wingless. I feel so bad for them. They can't do the one thing they're named for. They can't fly. And then I realized, my fruit flies are in truth insects that eat yeast and can't fly. Anyways, I've been calling them my yeast crawls, and I am their god now. Minecraft for the last few years has had maybe the most confused development direction of all time. There's one guy at Minecraft who is under the impression they are making an educational game to teach kids about different types of igneous rocks and what foods are bad for what animals. And another guy at Minecraft who is under the impression he's making Skyrim Remastered, Blocks Edition. And one guy who's watched YouTubers and is under the impression they're designing Industrial Slaughter Simulator 2024. And all of them live in separate offices and add their updates independently of each other and don't know the others exist. I listened to this podcast by 2 priests who talk about what life as a priest is like because I find their stories interesting. And one of the best moments was when the younger priest, baby priest we shall call him, absolutely lost it on the podcast because he had been preaching, then he saw someone do a full body sigh, shoulders up and down, then look at their watch, and then shoot baby priest a dirty look. Because priests are human too, this priest found it irritating on a human level, which, okay, I can see that, and then he spent several minutes vehemently and jokingly, but also vehemently, proposing that Catholicism should update its rules so if anyone does that, the priest is allowed to come down from the altar and challenge the person to hand-to-hand combat. He argued that more people would come back to church if there was a chance of seeing the priest getting in a fistfight, and in fact they might go to church multiple times a day. He stubbornly refused to allow exemptions for little old ladies. He was fully and passionately committed to the idea of Catholicism allowing priests to fistfight parishioners in the middle of Mass, and I'm going to say it, I think he was right. When you're out at a restaurant or a coffee shop or a Target or whatever with your friends, and you overhear/eavesdrop the same snippet of some stranger's conversation, and you look at each other for a second and check that you both heard the stranger say the same weird, funny, baffling thing, and just break out in knowing grins and quiet laughter. That's a love language. I was eating alone at a Mexican restaurant once, and a group of college kids were chatting over tortilla chips. There was some jabber, and then we had to climb over the barbed wire. Dude, did you just say barbed wire? Yeah, man, that's spiky crap. You actually think it's called barbed wire? Like freaking Robert Wire? You think it's called Robert Wire? Well, what the hell do you think it's called? It's barb wire, you idiot. Like Barbara Wire. The third guy. Oh my god, you guys. Barbed wire. Because the wire has barbs. It is barbed. Oh. Freaking Robert and Barbara Wire. Screw you guys. I hope Robert and Barbara Wire are in a happy and committed relationship. When are the stupid questions during interviews going to stop? I had an interview, and partway through, the interviewer asked me what my favorite drink is, and I said water. He gave me a weird look and said, "Come on, you can do better than that." I didn't know what to say, so I didn't say anything, and we just sat there and looked at each other for about 15 seconds in silence. He stops the interview and said, "I'm not what they're looking for. I'm not sure what that was all about, but I feel like I dodged a bullet." Screaming. This is what being autistic feels like, but for every question you get asked ever in your life. 2,000-year-old Roman face cream with visible ancient finger marks. Preserved within a small tin canister, the cream was discovered during excavations by pre-construct archaeology of a Roman temple precinct on Tabard Street, Southwark in 2003. The main constituent of the cream was animal fat mixed with starch and tin oxide. Imagine if they got a clear fingerprint from that. And then, just for kicks and giggles, they put it into a police database, or whatever. And one day there's a murder. The only evidence anyone was there is a handprint, and one of the fingerprints matches the 2,000-year-old one. Suddenly, they begin to find more and more unsolved murders that all have a similar trend. Only one piece of evidence to tell who the murderer was. It's a handprint or a fingerprint of some kind. And it's always the same person. It's the same one that's been happening for decades, maybe even hundreds of years. Holy guacamole! Does no one realize that Robin Hood was a terrible role model for young kids? I mean, you are stealing from people, illegal, and those people usually worked hard to get their wealth. It really demotivates people to succeed when they know they can get something someone else worked for. Is this what rich people worry about, Lamau? Who knew the Sheriff of Nottingham had a blog? How does someone read Robin Hood and miss the part where it's set in feudal England? He stole from people who got their wealth by exploiting the poor. Incidentally, that's all rich people to this very day. Tune in next week when they tell you the story of Ebenezer Scrooge, a benevolent job creator harassed during his sleeping hours by the hellish socialist dead. So, I got new hearing aids that can sync with Bluetooth devices, which is great, because I can enjoy music again. But, like all Bluetooth, it's kind of buggy, and sometimes I'm in the middle of a conversation when suddenly one of my devices connects. So what I'm saying is, the PS5 is very real, and it can speak to me from inside my brain. Once, during a dinner out, my mom kept asking us, "What's that sound?" And we couldn't hear anything. Only later did we figure out my sister had connected her phone to my mom's Bluetooth hearing aids and was intermittently playing farm animal noises. Stop trauma dumping to your friends. Tell this to your therapist. My god, they paywalled human connection. If a friend of mine gave a feast and did not invite me to it, I should not mind a bit. But if a friend of mine had a sorrow and refused to allow me to share it, I should feel it most bitterly. If he shut the doors of the house of mourning against me, I would move back again and again and beg to be admitted so that I might share in what I was entitled to share. If he thought me unworthy, unfit to weep with him, I should feel it as the most poignant humiliation. Oscar Wilde. Hey, can my cat stay on your blog for a little while? I'm going out of town for the night and could use someone to watch her. Thank you, everyone. Oh, jeepers. If I'd known she'd be traveling around this much, I'd have given her her leash. Make sure to hold on tight to her, okay? Being interested, or in my case actively pursuing a career in zookeeping, is so frustrating for a multitude of reasons, but one of the most insane things is how often you're reminded that a worrying number of people still think zoos are just animal prisons. I've had to have the, no, we can't just release them all into the wild. Yes, really, they'll die conversation with grown adults so many times. This website is too mobile focused these days. Reblog and tell me what your desktop/laptop background is. Girl, help. People in the notes are calling me rich and privileged for owning a computer. Guys, if your definition of wealth is owning a computer, then I'm sorry, but you're not ready for the revolution. Listen, when the Lord of the Land makes his subjects stand in the open rain, their enemy is not the man who wore a hat. Another fire line from a random Tumblr post, let's go. Dwarves are short, powerfully built with presumably a strong circulatory system and a culturally strong warrior ethos, as well as a cultural tradition of strong and intricate craftsmanship. All of these factors make them ideal jet fighter pilots. Oh crap, and then that leads to Dwarven astronauts? Good with the cramped conditions, modules that are designed to let the astronauts get their hands into the wiring if they needed to, rugged designs, less likely to go stir crazy if they don't get out in the open air. They'd be incredible! I see only one issue. No way a subterranean race is not going to be afraid of heights, especially one whose physiology is designed to be sturdy and immobile in the face of aggression. In the air is exactly where their evolutionary instincts don't want to be. No race is a monolith, however. Humans often do things that would cripple other humans with fear, so I propose this compromise. Dwarven pilots are very rare, but they're invariably the best there is. But the ones that do it are daredevil adrenaline junkies that are crazier than a sack full of wet cats. When I was 20, I went as Indiana Jones to a haunted trail, and a guy called me Indiana Jews, and then immediately fell and sprained his ankle and was screaming in pain, and the scare actors didn't know what to do, so a bunch of skeletons dragged him away. I think about this a lot. Indiana Jones and the swiftly delivered lesson that anti-Semitism isn't funny delivered by members of the skeleton army. The more I think about it, the more I realize anti-Semitic person experiences physical distress brought on suddenly as if by divine intervention and then gets dragged away by skeletons is absolutely an Indiana Jones plotline. If this happened in one of the Indiana Jones movies, I would not bat an eyelash. When I was in high school, I ate half a jar of pickled garlic. It was a pretty big jar. There wasn't much of a reason for this, just that I thought it was delicious and didn't have much self-control. I thought that my breath would stink and whatever, I would brush my teeth a bunch and not actually worry about it. Turns out, garlic has a way of just soaking into a person's entire body. My guess is that this was about 4 full bulbs of pickled garlic. It was seeping out of my pores. It was in the oils of my hair and skin. When I went to the bathroom, it smelled more like garlic than urine. It felt like it was going to last forever. On the second day, I asked my mom whether I could stay home from school, and she asked how long I thought it was going to last, and I really had no idea. I thought that it was funny, but other people thought that it was weird and off-putting, which made me think that it was less funny. One teacher placed me in the back corner of the room so I would cause the least problems with my stink. I cried a little bit, and the tears smelled like garlic. But in the 20 years since then, you know what? Not a single vampire. In general, I don't think fandom tattoos are a bad idea, but I think you need to at least give yourself like a 2-year buffer from the end of that piece of media before you commit. Like if someone told me, yeah, I'm obsessed with Has-Been Hotel right now, so I'm gonna get a Has-Been Hotel tattoo, I'd be like, whoa, okay, maybe put a pin in that idea for later. But if someone told me, yeah, I read Homestuck in its prime, and I still love it, so I'm gonna get a Homestuck tattoo, I'd be like, well, fair enough. It's been like 8 years. If you still like it now, you'll probably still have fond memories of it in 20 years. You do you. That being said, shout out to my old supervisor who heard one of his coworkers owned a tattoo gun and came in the next day with Bart Simpson on his butt. I hope he's having a real one. MrBeast, KSI, and Logan Paul are releasing Lunchly, a Lunchables competitor. It will feature Prime, Feastables chocolate, and a variation of food. They're gonna violate food safety standards we've never even heard of. A variation of food? The pizza. I fear the working conditions in a MrBeast factory. Wow, this sure is a wacky policy under your privacy policy that states you lose your rights to a class action lawsuit if you eat this product. People have said good things about you behind your back. Without your knowledge, people have shared their love for you with others. It's so easy to forget this is true sometimes. The same way people often think good, positive things about us, and we'll never know because they don't express it vocally. We get so used to hate speech and judgment in our daily lives, we often forget that the inside of people's heads doesn't have to be a bad place. It can be a place of kindness and thoughtfulness and decency. We just expect the worst because we have been taught that way. And we forget there is another. The part that scares me most about the supernatural fandom is when they need a certain GIF to add to a post, they know exactly where to find it, or know exactly what episode of any of the 9 whole seasons to make one. A supernatural GIF has been added to my post. I now officially am a part of the Tumblr community. Crying. This is the freaking hardest Tumblr's ever made me doubt my sense of reality. Can anyone else see Donkey Kong, or am I tweaked the flip out? No, that's Dean.
Mom, I can play Zelda's treasure chest sound on my flute.
Mom,
Games again. Stop wasting your time. Go and study.
I want to let my dejected young self know back then that 26 years later, you'll be playing the flute in the Zelda remake. Professional flutist, Ichiro Takijun. Never get discouraged when chasing your dreams. I'd bet money that his mom doesn't remember this exchange at all, but he carried it for a quarter of a century. The axe forgets, but the tree remembers, and whew, my parents must have been lumberjacks. I took a pic of me watching the Pickle Rick episode to tick people off, but like somehow I managed to take the pic so that the frame on the TV was a different frame to the reflection on the desk. Cursed image. This is the most screwed up scenario that accurately depicts the movement of photons through space and time. Einstein would be so upset that you proved his theory in one moment, because in his day, it took freaking months to set up an eclipse pic to prove relativity, and you did it by accident in your living room. Congrats. Neither of these stupid dead buttheads knew what the flip they were talking about. This is simply caused by the camera's shutter speed, meaning that different parts of the image were captured at different times. A photon travels approximately 5,000 kilometers in the time it takes a TV frame to update, so there's no way the path difference here would be even remotely significant in comparison. 1960 with a high school diploma. Here's your job, which is totally capable of supporting a 5-person family and owning a home. 1960 with a college degree. Here's a giant bag of money and a cadre of people to spank your monkey for the rest of your life. Congratulations! 2017 with 2 bachelor's degrees, a master's, a trade, and experience. You might have to just work at Walmart for a while. At least you don't live in Somalia or something. Here's an article by a baby boomer about why your generation is lazy. It would be funny if it didn't hurt inside. My mom was very attentive to the media we consumed as kids. She listened to me info dump about Naruto and Sonic, etc. While I was forming memories that would inevitably be lost to the haze of my youth, she was taking it all in. And now I'll be 30 years old and say something, and my mom will be like,
"This is just like that thing Eggman said once. What was it?"
And she'll quote Sonic Adventure 2, and I'm like, what are you freaking talking about right now? Trash pickup at my mom's house has always been Wednesday morning, so when I still lived there, we had to get all the trash out on Tuesday night, and once in like 2011, my mom heard us say, "It's Tuesday, you fat nasty trash," so to this day, when I'm visiting and we have to get the trash out, my mom still calls it Fat Nasty Trash Night. This woman has been quoting Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff for 13 years. Researching parrying daggers is a fun little treat, and I'm delighted by how much every single one of these things looks like it's designed to be as annoying as possible. This one is my favorite. It's called a sword breaker. It looks like a weaponized version of snagging your clothes on a door handle. If you caught my blade in one of these things, there isn't a force on earth that could deliver you from my fury. Deliver your fury with what? Your sword? Parry this, you filthy casual. My wife's favorite sleep noise app is the kind that lets you mix different noises, one of which is a snoring Shih Tzu, and she loves to create soundscapes that imply the dog is in imminent danger. It'll be like, music box playing, dog snoring, The sound of a crackling fire slowly fades in, getting louder and louder as the dog continues to snore. The other night, I was taking a bath while our Bluetooth speaker sat innocently nearby, when she decided to aid my relaxation by providing her favorite soundscape, dog engulfed in house fire. The only thing that has ever improved my mental health in any measurable capacity is making more friends. That's literally it. The way isolation plays on your psyche and the way that a solid support system can improve your life is insane. One of the worst things that we did as a society is removing most avenues to find this kind of thing, and the over-reliance on the idea of getting better on your own. You can self-care and mindfulness all you want. Humans are a social species, and there is only so much you can do on your own, and that is okay. Hyper-individualism is a sickness. No amount of self-love can replace the love of the community. Not even J.R.R. Tolkien, who famously developed the concept of the secondary world and firmly believed that no trace of the real world should be evoked in the fictional world, was able to remove potatoes from his literature. This is a man who developed whole languages and mythologies for his literary world, who justified its existence in English as a translation simply because he was so miffed he couldn't get away with making the story fully alien to the real world. And not even he, in extremis, was so cruel as to deny his characters the heavenly potato, could not even conceive a universe devoid of the potato. Such is its impact. Everyone, please take a moment to say thank you to South Americans for developing and cultivating one of Earth's finest vegetables. The potato is all that. Literally world-changing food. Bless. I flipping despise when things fake being higher quality than they are. I don't mean like slapping a slightly misspelled brand name onto an identical non-designer product for purely aesthetic reasons. I mean like rivets or thread that are actually glued down rather than punched or stitched. Fake pockets on jeans that are actually just an extra seam. Heavy looking chain that's plastic or very soft flimsy metal rather than anything sturdy. I bought boots which looked like they had a stitched sole 8 months ago, and lo and behold, the glue holding the sole on is revealing itself by falling apart. You put a stitch in there. You had the needle and thread, and you didn't actually stitch down the flipping soles. Oh, it makes me so mad. Cheap jerks. Taking the aesthetics of durability or practicality while handing you a product that won't last you the year. Beats headphones add weights to make the headphones seem higher quality. They add weights. I don't know the actual quality of the materials used for the headphones, but I know that adding weights is just bonkers, really. Yesterday, my little brother told me something very sweet and touching, that when he was a kid and had nightmares about monsters chasing him or whatever, he would be able to end the nightmare by finding me in the dream, and I would protect him by fighting off the zombies or carrying him away. This is adorable and makes me feel like the greatest older sibling in the world. But the hilarious thing is that when I was a kid, I had nightmares of needing to save him from zombies and such. So many dreams where he was in trouble and I needed to save him. Like, my nightmares began where his ended. Low-key, I think he mastered the ability to psychically transfer his nightmare to me as a child, and I'm kind of annoyed with him. Walking around my neighborhood wearing my sick as flip custom t-shirt that says, "I steal every friendly cat I meet with no remorse. I do it all the time. Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. Keep that beast enclosed, lest he face my lightning cat grasp." And smiling politely while my neighbor's indoor-outdoor cats gently trot down the sidewalk towards me as the neighbors themselves read my shirt with a growing sense of panic. Unfollow me for cat theft all you want. You'll never catch me, and you'll never stop me. Those things are this season's must-have lip gloss in an understaffed Sephora. And baby, I'm a middle-class teenage girl who's not getting enough attention at home. People in the notes keep saying, this is just another reason you should keep your cats inside. And I know they just mean the fact that someone in general could steal them, but I like to think they all mean that you gotta watch out for me specifically. Because you do. I'm everywhere, and I'm fast. I was arrested for writing a fanfic about the prince. Deserved. I haven't got the faintest clue what this is about, but I can't stop laughing at the prince's face. He looks so haunted. Girl, what in fresh hell did you write? It was bad enough that the boy is literally just stabbing the book with a dagger and disassociating. I picked this comic up by coincidence a few months ago, and I'm delighted to inform anyone curious that she wrote him in a torrid love affair with his bodyguard and completely undermined his terrifying reputation and made him a folk hero instead. He was not thrilled. Surviving the current age of internet means saying no to subscriptions and premiums for basic features. You must endure the inconvenience of not being able to use every server emoji in Discord. You must build the patience to find alternatives like NewPipe, so you can listen to music on YouTube while your phone screen sleeps. Do not give these corporations your limited disposable income. TikTok not letting me view videos on my phone without downloading the app? I will outlast TikTok, and the execs will be remembered as dull, disgusting capitalists. Listen to me, listen to me. If you do not know how to pirate shows from Hulu, learn. If you can't pirate it, it is not worth the money to rent it. Please, I'm on my hands and knees. Do not accept this form of internet. Me Googling the most common knowledge just to make sure it didn't change randomly. This is a good thing. A lot of stuff that's considered common knowledge is actually wrong or misleading, or it really has changed since you learned it. It was common knowledge that the sun revolved around the earth, except that's not true. It's common knowledge to hide under freeway overpasses during tornadoes, except this is extremely dangerous and warned against. It's common knowledge that you have to wait 24 to 48 hours in the US to file a missing person report, except it's actually recommended to file as soon as you know someone's missing because the first few days are the most critical to finding them. I get that this post is about anxiety and memory issues, but the truth is that knowledge changes all the time. It's good to avoid spreading false information, even if you do it by accident. Considering that just within my lifetime, the names and borders of a third of the countries in Central Asia have changed, and Pluto is no longer a planet, I cast zero shade. Con artist is maybe the profession with the biggest gap between how cool they are in media and how cool they are in real life. Fictional con artist. I've gathered you all here because you each have unique skills and specialties that will be required for the ultimate heist, psychologically destroying the richest man in the world and taking his mansions, his yacht, and his wife in the process. Real life con artist. Plan A is to scare an old lady who barely speaks English. Plan B is to trick unemployed people into giving us money, which they famously have a lot of, in exchange for broadly defined career services. Plan C is we try to make NFTs a thing again. Wait, do people read first-person stories and think they're the ones in the story? Saw people talking about not liking first-person, which is fair, but their reasoning was like, I would not do that. And I don't understand that mindset. First-person stories are still about a character making their own decisions. First person isn't about you. At least, I thought it wasn't. What am I missing? I've always seen first person as just a more in-depth look into a character's mind and stricter POV, not as a reader's stand-in. I see first person stories like I'm sitting down across from the narrator getting the wildest tea imaginable. Most accurate way to read a first person story. Why don't they make stained glass fish tanks? Give those fish Catholic guilt. Fascinated by the implication that it's the stained glass that gives Catholics the guilt. Having viral posts is all fun and games until you have clowns in your mentions being like, well, OP, I bet you also didn't know this. Haughtily explains something I absolutely would and do know, like add whatever to my post that you think is informative, just don't direct it at me. I know. I just didn't include it in the post I made in 20 seconds because I didn't think 30,000 of you would see it. I know fish can't sin. Okay, I know stained glass is not stable enough for a fish tank. I freaking know. I love these tags. What was your viral post? I need to know so badly. I found the fish can't sin post. Top 10 pranks that went too far compilation, where number 1 is Liu Bang founding the Han Dynasty. Hold on, I gotta Google something. Okay, that's funny. People are asking what this means. So, Liu Bang was a provincial constable, basically a sheriff in classical China, who one day was transporting some prisoners who escaped. The penalty for allowing prisoners to escape was death. So my man looked at his prospects and said, welp, in for a penny, in for a pound, and decided to go join up with the dudes who'd been his prisoners 5 minutes ago. This kicked off a chain of events that led to him becoming a bandit chief and eventually a rebel general, and ended with him overthrowing the Qin dynasty and becoming Emperor Gaozu of Han. And you think you had a weird day at work. You ever mess up your job so bad that the only way to recover is to overthrow the government? People are really trying to defend being on your phone during a movie in the theater. What is going on? People also forget about 1, the massive amount of unaddressed trauma we went through as a society, so many lives lost without any outlet to grieve, and 2, the underreported impact COVID has to the body and brain. Using your phone in a movie theater is a symptom of long COVID. The defense of being on your phone in a movie theater is who cares? By your own admission, you should be paying attention to the movie. So why do you care about what other people are doing? You're meant to be paying attention to the movie? This post has brought forward a very strange demographic of people who seem unable to comprehend that a tiny beacon of light in a dark room tends to be distracting, and that there is a reason that every movie theater ever has something to tell you to put away your phone during the movie. My grandfather always had candy in his pockets, and one time when I got really sick and I was hospitalized, my dad told him not to give me any candy. He pulled out his pockets to show he hadn't even brought any, and I got really sad. But as soon as my dad walked out of the room, he then proceeded to take off his hat and had 2 chewy chocolate candy toffees and 2 orange Fanta toffees. And I'll never forget the happiness and surprise I felt in that one moment in my entire life. Hey, I'm really sorry because you are a really cool mutual, but for the record, I have to unfollow you because the purple creature in your profile picture, whatever she's from, or they, sorry, I don't want to assume the beast's pronouns. I love all genders. Looks almost exactly like my ex-girlfriend's persona, and I try to ignore that for a while because I'm not the kind of loser who would unfollow someone because their creature looks like my ex's persona, but get this, she drew her persona hitting me, human, I'm not a furry, nothing against them, I love all genders, with a car, Honda Civic, and sent it to me from a burner account on Toy House. So needless to say, I can't keep doing this. I'm gonna miss your post though. You are a real one. I loved when you would say crap like, it's the F-slur Wednesday post Knuckles. Huh? I just remember that post on Reddit or whatever, where people were like, this has to be Cillian Murphy, because the first image you see when you Google him is hideous. Hold on, it's so funny. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? OP turned off reblogs, so here it is as screenshots. Pick literally any other picture for Cillian Murphy, I beg. How do I get my main Google image search picture replaced with another? Name search results. Hi there, I'm an actor/filmmaker, actual name not given for privacy purposes, and for some reason, Google has arbitrarily made it so that when a person searches my name, the main picture that appears is one at a premiere where I look like a prey animal about to be totaled by a green Hyundai Tucson SUV. In this terrifying world, you continuously have the power to offer someone else a little relief. Why would you withhold that? Do you remember what a little relief feels like? It feels like a lot. Excuse me? Are you suggesting I frolic directly into someone's emotional space and assume what brings them relief, potentially causing more stress? Are you encouraging people to reach past their own boundaries to help, increasing net suffering if it costs more than the other gains? Surely not. That would be advocating for emotional self-harm. This is a post about the woman who waived my late fee at the bank. Good for you, good for her. The wording on the initial post feels closer to blaming people who don't reach out than celebrating those who do by a large enough margin that I feel the need to hit back. You are a tar pit. Did I even tell you guys how I pretended to know how to play an instrument for 3 years and only 2 people ever figured it out? I don't mean I was like telling people I could play guitar. I mean, I was sitting in band class holding a French horn to my lips and looking at the music and not understanding any of it, or knowing how to play a single note, for 3 years. The 2 people who knew were my best friend who knew I was too stupid to play such a complicated instrument, and the only other hornist in my section who had to desperately cover for me because he knew I had blackmail material on him. I only came clean this year in my senior speech, and to this day, people still call me Mellophony and the no-hit wonder. Reddit ragebait takes the form of short stories that are thousands of words long, feature whole characters with arcs and development, clearly took some time to come up with, sometimes has updates spanning several months, and, in the best cases, is just plausible enough that you're never quite sure if it's a true story. Tumblr ragebait takes the form of someone making a poll, pretending they don't have any concept of how human society works, and everyone finds that perfectly plausible and gets mad at it. I'm not sure which is funnier, to be honest. No one ever talks about Gimli being not even slightly tempted by the ring. Mother Trucker had no hesitation, just walked up with his axe and immediately tried to wreck it. Obviously that didn't work, but like, the ring had zero visible effect on him. Amazing. gold sickness in the line of Durin whomst? Nodding Gimli, son of Gloin. He wasn't going to let himself be embarrassed in front of all these freaking elves. The Ring. Gimli, son of Gloin, you can have your deepest desires if you just take me. Gimli. Oh? Elrond. The ring tempts all who come into contact with it. Gimli. My deepest desire is to not look like a little wuss in front of all these freaking elves. The other day, I went with a friend to the museum, and outside its entrance was greeted with this. 8 cats, sitting there, perfectly still. Everyone around them was cooing and taking pictures, but those cats did not budge. For a moment, I was actually wondering whether that was supposed to be some sort of experimental new performance art. But then one lady came out of the museum, and they all got up and followed after her. Good God, I hope they're her cats. I hope they do this everywhere she goes. Just follow after her and patiently wait outside every building she enters like the world's most disciplined children. Y'all, I just found the funniest thing on the Harry Potter wiki. In both the book and in the film adaptation of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, the snake blinks at Harry. However, snakes are unable to wink as they have no eyelids. Yet it's remotely possible that Harry, while focusing on the snake, unknowingly gave it eyelids with his uncontrolled underage magic. There's also the general problem with the idea of speaking parcel tongue. Snakes are deaf. Maybe J.K. Rowling don't know anything about snakes. Maybe J.K. Rowling don't know anything. Plausible, since she wrote the wrong number of bones in a person's arm when saying how many Harry would have to grow back. She did what? My first venture greater than 63,000 feet, the space equivalent zone, where water spontaneously boils. Luckily, I'm suited. Wouldn't say it's spontaneous. The pressure in the room got below the vapor pressure of the water at room temp. Simple thermo. Some guy just mansplained space to an actual freaking astronaut. That feeling when correcting misinformation is written off as mansplaining. That feeling when idiots on Tumblr who know jack diddly squat about thermo assume the dude is correcting misinformation, when actually he's dead wrong. Spontaneous is a scientific term. It means a reaction with a negative Gibbs-free energy, i.e., a reaction that will occur without an external energy input, i.e., water boiling because of low atmospheric pressure. Spontaneous is absolutely the correct term for what she's observing, and that is simple thermo, and this is correcting misinformation. Have a nice day. This flipping kitten somehow got behind the kitchen cabinet built into the wall and into the wall. I got him out with funny toy on stick and shredded chicken, but I got so scared I almost threw up, and now the entire house must be baby-proofed. I had to take him into the utility room with me while I was finding duct tape to close off the bottom of the fireplace as well, so he wouldn't despawn when I was gone, and when I put him down to get the duct tape, he managed to nutty putty cave himself in another cranny I didn't know existed, and as I pulled him out by the butt, he cried like a human baby. Do not make me feel bad for saving your dust bunny spelunking butt, you sicko! He had me doing this crap 3 times today. 10 weeks old and already yearns to Amigara fault himself in virtually every situation. He is sick of it. Give boys romantic physical affection. I don't even know how many guys I have been with or talked to that say they have never had someone hold them or kiss their foreheads or play with their hair. I have had a boy break down in front of me because I held him to my chest as he got sleepy and he hadn't ever had someone hold him like that. This is not right. Boys deserve physical affection, just like everyone else, and not just in a sexual way. They deserve to feel loved and cared for, just like the ladies. Fellas, if she won't let you cry on her shoulders in full embrace for hours and cathartic release of years of loneliness and trauma, she's not the one. Things cats were right about all along. 1. Screw staying hydrated by drinking enough water. Eat more wet food. Watermelon, cucumbers, soup. 2. Feels great to be really high up in your house where you can see the whole place. Loft bed, loft bed, loft bed, loft bed. 3. Express yourself as clearly as possible when people are touching you and you don't want them to. 4. Optional, but you can also express yourself clearly when your people are not touching you and you want them to. 5. Sometimes it's important to just go, actually, I don't care, and wander off. 6. You don't have to be the strongest or toughest to defend yourself. It's enough to just be difficult enough to not be worth the trouble. 7. Ghosts will eventually leave if you stare at them for long enough. I think some of you don't like narratives or stories, or characters. I think you just like fanfiction tropes. Protagonists can and will be sexist, racist, insensitive, cruel, stupid, etc., especially towards the beginning of a story. These are called character flaws, and they are a surprise tool that will lead to narrative fulfillment later. And sometimes, narrative fulfillment doesn't mean the character overcomes their flaws, or even the anti-hero is punished for their flaws. Sometimes it means the narrative says, wow, was that screwed up or what? Anyway, I'm Rod Sterling. Stop buying tomatoes. Here's how to grow an endless supply of tomatoes right at home. Rather than throw away his overripe tomatoes, he chose to do this. For some reason, I definitely thought this was going to be one of those freaking infinite chocolate things, or like some really weird trick involved. Literally, it's just put the tomatoes in some dirt and they grow into more tomatoes. Which, like, yeah, that is how plants work, but I don't know if it's a life hack. Don't plant more than one slice. My mom only planted one and ended up with 62 plants and over 500 tomatoes. This hashtag life hack is too powerful. You will literally get an endless supply. Grocery stores hate him. Local man discovers gardening. Every single time someone mentions police role-playing in a sexual context, I think of this Tinder interaction and I instantly become absolutely stricken with laughter. Excuse me, you need a license to be that cute. You're way over the legal limit. I'm gonna need to see some registration.
Oh no, I'm sorry, officer. I seem to have left my purse at home. I don't have my license or registration.
Pow, 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 pow. Reload. The phrase moon's haunted rewired my brain the moment it entered my vocabulary. Never in my life have I encountered a phrase more infectious or fun to use. Coworker. After turning on the lights in the warehouse and noticing half of them are flickering or won't turn on at all. Hey James, what's up with the lights? Me. Oh, I don't know. I guess the light's haunted. Coworker, what? Me, shrugging, lights haunted. Later that day, another coworker, hey, what's up with the lights? Coworker I was with earlier, lights haunted. Other coworker, what? Coworker, without changing expression or missing a beat, lights haunted. Thanks to advancements in modern science and education, I know how a lot of things work and can explain if asked. But sometimes, it's just more fun to apply the exact same logic to the situation as a 14th century alchemist. No, because this is so real. Posts haunted. Welcome to my twisted onion. Calling H-Bomber Troll on your butt. Guy. Can a girl not make a homestuck typo in peace? This is freaking humiliating, and it's not even my post. This is humiliating! All of Tumblr knows my homestuck typo, I freaking guess. Now all of Tumblr knows you made a typo. I'm sorry, OP, to keep adding onto your post, but what? From one homestuck to another, how do you even type troll instead of guy? Well, you see, there's this homestuck fan troll roleplay Discord server. What? I've seen posts going around claiming that petting animals is basically tricking them into thinking they're being groomed. And it's bugging me because, like, there's no trickery afoot. Petting and scritching are grooming activities. They help to dislodge loose fur and foreign objects, and more evenly distribute protective oils, among other things. Primates are social groomers, and the human impulse to scritch is the legacy of our primate ancestors. We see an animal we like, even a dangerous one, and the monkey brain says, groom that thing. Sucking a guy's Richard is basically tricking him into thinking he's having coitus. Why did be critical of your media turn into find all its flaws and hate it? Why did people become allergic to fun? Because people confuse critical as in critical thinking with critical as in criticizing something. So they think that look for something bad, no matter how far-fetched, is what being critical means. They also don't realize that literary criticism means, okay, what literary criticism is like taking a mechanical clock apart to see all the gears and learn how it fits together, and approach your next clock with more knowledge of what makes it tick. What they think literary criticism means is, you take the clock apart and beat all the pieces with a hammer, then scream at it because it doesn't tick for you the way it used to. Oh my god, somebody put it in words! Honestly bizarre that tomatoes get all the flack for not being a vegetable because they're technically a fruit when A, there are a ton of fruits that get categorized as vegetables. Like, this also applies to pumpkins, squashes, and cucumbers. B, the freaking mushrooms are standing there at the back of the crowd in this witch trial trying to look inconspicuous because they somehow got into the vegetable club with no flipping controversy despite the fact that they're not even plants. Friendships as a teenager. We used to talk 5 hours every night, now it's down to 3. Are we still friends? Thinking emoji. I wonder if they don't like me anymore. Friendships as an adult. Oh my god, I finally clear up 20 minutes of my schedule to talk to my friend I haven't spoken to in 4 months. Hashtag BFFs, hashtag we will find each other in every life. I'm still so taken aback by people in the notes who claimed you need to be talking to people weekly or even daily to consider them your friend. How many people do you know? As an adult, I feel like talking every day is sustainable with one person, maybe 2 or 3, if your circumstances somehow are really conveniently aligned. Yeah, there's people I talk to often, there's also people I don't talk to for 6 months, because there's no way we'll be able to coordinate time and energy, and I still consider them my friends, because this is real life, and there isn't a Stardew Valley-esque heart system based off of how many interactions we had this month. Miniature frogs set record as first vertebrates to lose the ability to balance. Amphibians are exceptionally good at being small. There are salamanders the size of your thumbnail, pygmy newts that live in moss patches and feast on microscopic insects, and inch-long African frogs that spend their entire lives in and around the banks of small puddles. In fact, the title for the world's smallest vertebrate is currently held by a species of frog that could perch comfortably on the head of a pencil eraser. A new study published in the journal Scientific Advances shows that all this downscaling doesn't come without serious drawbacks. In an evolutionary first, researchers have shown that a group of frogs alternately called pumpkin toadlets and flea toads have become so small they're no longer able to maintain balance during quick maneuvers like jumping. So there are several species of frogs that have evolved to be so small that their vestibular balance system doesn't work well, and I'm sorry, but it's the funniest thing to watch them try to jump. Don't assume malice, assume ignorance. Life is easier, the world is kinder, and you can educate. Actual malice is pretty rare, I find. Always remember Hanlon's razor. Never assume malice when incompetence will suffice as an explanation. That said, never forget Fred Clark's law either. Sufficiently advanced incompetence is indistinguishable from malice. There's a certain point at which ignorance becomes malice, at which there is simply no way to become that ignorant except deliberately and maliciously. Alien Romulus actors battled lifelike creatures to bring the film back to its horror roots. Extremely freaking funny way to talk about practical effects. This makes it sound like they actually created real creatures to physically attack the cast. They should have. Malls are dying because they don't have blacksmith, apothecary, alehouse, or peddlers. We must create dungeons that expand for miles under the earth, and malls are the hub areas where warriors gather to venture deep beneath the surface for treasures yet discovered. It's the only way to save the economy. It's the only way to save the economy. This girl at uni was dressed so gay, and then I found out she's just straight with a lesbian mom. Queerbaiting is not a victimless crime. Date her mom? Date her mom. Date her mom! Return my beacon to Mount Kilcreath. Adventure Time was just like, here's a fart joke, here's a talking piece of candy. Here's an absolutely soul-crushing scene where a woman realizes that the man who saved her from starvation and dangerous mutated humans in the aftermath of a brutal global nuclear war no longer remembers her fully, or who he used to be, because the thing that kept him alive all those years also drove him completely insane. And now she finally has to accept that he'll never truly be the same friend she once knew, and decides that even though he does questionable and sometimes dangerous stuff now because of his insanity, she'll still accept him back into her life as he is because he's still important to her and probably needs a friend now that his mental state has caused him to be alienated by most other people. Here's another fart joke. No freaking way, I found my little rubber fetus. Your what? When I was like 7, I got this little rubber fetus that was being handed out by pro-life people at a concert. For like 10 years, he was my stress ball. I would chew on him or throw him at the wall and watch him bounce around. But he started to decay, so put him in this prescription bottle, and now I just pretend he's a test tube baby. Okay. What do you mean decay? The rubber has kind of started to degrade over the years. That's why his face looks like that. This is what he looks like outside of his tube. Consider, hobbits unused to carrying swords, initially very unclear on when it's appropriate to whip them out. Merry and Pippin have a disagreement over, I don't know, whether cake or pie is better, and both draw their swords like, have at thee! Meanwhile, Aragorn in the background like, boys, please. Please, boys, those are sharp. Frodo, napping. Boromir, hey Frodo, wake up, we need to talk. Sam, he's having his nap, sir. Boromir, Sam, please, this is important. Sam draws his sword, he's having his nap, go away. People will read books they do not like and then wonder why they hate reading. I don't like long books, read short ones. I don't like prose, try poetry. I don't want to pay for a book I might not even like. Go to your local library. Reading is the hobby that you make it. Make it something you like. Seeing this mentioned in the tags, but for the love of all that is good and holy, please stop making yourself read books you don't like. You know yourself better than any curation or recommendation. If you're not enjoying it, you can put it down. Reading for leisure is supposed to be fun. You can't have fun if you're actively robbing yourself of joy while you do it. Just saw an ad for flipping Kellogg's cornflakes, wherein a shirtless blindfolded man tied to a bed is like, wait, are you eating? And it pans across the bed to reveal that his partner is indeed too distracted to have coitus with him because she is chowing down on cornflakes. Now, I've been caught up in wondering whether, A, John Harvey Kellogg would despise this ad. The mere proximity of bondage play to his brand name and beloved anti-pornography flakes is unforgivable. B, John Harvey Kellogg would enjoy this ad because it shows a young woman forsaking the temptations of the flesh in favor of eating a wholesome and nourishing bowl of cornflakes. Cast your vote. A, that crunchy old man is rolling in his grave. B, it's literally demonstrating the flake's intended purpose. C, what in the goddamn hell are you people talking about? I worry we are losing touch with the true meaning of Halloween, avoiding the fairies. Celebrate a good old-fashioned Halloween with the very important traditions of lighting candles and jack-o'-lanterns to keep away the fairies, roasting s'mores on bonfires to keep away the fairies, bobbing for apples, fortune-telling, Ouija boards, and other assorted divination rituals to forewarn those doomed to be kidnapped by fairies, haunted houses to preach against the dangers that lurk across the veil in the other world, home of the fairies, community effort to stuff kids full of candy that if whisked away by the fairies, they might resist the temptation of strange fey foods long enough to escape. Disguising your face and identity in elaborate costumes to keep away the freaking fairies! I'm a bag of anxiety, but also dense as flip, which is a great combo in social situations, because when I screw up, it plays off as sheer confidence. Eating a sandwich, I answer happily, to what seems to be a positive reception. I finish my lunch and leave the cafeteria. Halfway to class, I realize that junior kid meant, what's your major at this institute? Not, what brings you to the cafeteria, when he asked what I was doing here. He laughed at my dry humor, thinking my jape funny. Little does he know, I am but a witless fool. I will now stress binge an entire loaf of pretzel bread and sleep for 12 hours. Apology tier list. S. I'm sorry I hurt you. I shouldn't have said/done that. A. I'm sorry. B. I'm sorry if my words/actions hurt you. C. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it that way. D. I'm sorry you were hurt by my words/actions. F. I didn't mean it that way. E. I could say I'm sorry, or I could tell you the truth. G. I'm sorry you thought that what I did merits an apology. I believe an apology is in order. N. No, you're sorry. T. I don't expect forgiveness, because forgiveness would imply I did anything wrong. Z. Denial. Model cucumber, circa 1850 to 1700 BC. Is it though? Is it a model cucumber? Is that the most logical thing for it to be? I know this happens, and it looks suspicious, but this image, we have every reason to think it is a cucumber. Like it was made in clay models in burials period. It's painted green. It's on the small side of things, 9.6 centimeters or 3 3/4 inches. Oh right, and it was placed on a model offering table with small model bread and drinking cup. Sometimes a cucumber really is a cucumber. Some poor sculptor went through the effort to make the shape look as much as possible like a cucumber and avoid the incredibly slippery slope to Richard. And this is how people treat their efforts. They, one word, is shorter than he or she, 3 words. They is more inclusive than he/she. Themself flows more naturally than him or herself. They is less clunky than sahi. It's time to replace the awkward she or he. Hey, can you go ask they what does they want for dinner, and when is they coming over to watch movies with they? Hey, can you go ask them what they want for dinner, and when they're coming over to watch movies? Step 1 is learning how to talk like a human person. Completely ignores the basic rules of English grammar.
Using they/them doesn't make sense, sweaty, smiley face.
Which one of you is going to tell me that tea tastes different if you put it in hot water? You were putting it in cold water? Radish, answer the question, Radish. Yeah? I thought for like 5 years that people just put it in hot water to speed up the teification process. Didn't realize there was an actual reason. You think I have the patience to boil water? WTF? You don't have the patience to microwave water for 3 minutes? Why are you putting it in the microwave to boil it? Do you think I have the patience to boil water on the stove? It takes less than a minute. Bestie, is your stovetop powered by the freaking sun? How long does it take you to boil a cup of water on the stove? Like 7 minutes? Just stick the mug on top of the stove on medium heat and it boils in like 2 minutes. Less than that if you use a saucepan. Crying. You're putting the whole mug on the stove on medium heat. Your stove is enchanted. Every single person in this post is a freaking lunatic. Do none of you own a flipping kettle? At the company retreat, one extremely drunk girl asked what my pronouns were. Eventually. It took her a while to word the question. After the whole conversation was done, she goes,
Yeah, girl, get on with thy bad self. See what I did? They, them, thy.
I was almost holding back tears from trying not to laugh as I told her, yes, that's great. You nailed it, honey. Thank you very much. I am feeling the love. Anyway, I've been assigned the/thine at supportive drunk girl. Me. Oh wow, this shop has everything my heart desires. Spooky shopkeeper.
Yes, I will warn you, every item comes with a price.
Me. Yes, I know how shops work. Spooky shopkeeper.
The price may be more than you expect to pay.
Me. Yes, I know how US taxes work too. Shopkeeper, increasingly exasperated.
I'm trying to tell you that I'm evil and offering these wares with no regard for the harm they will do.
Me, also increasingly exasperated.
I know what capitalism is too, goddammit.
Great Tumblr post of a screenshot of a Tumblr post of a reblog chain on a screenshot of a tweet. Do you want to be in the screenshot next time? If I ever make a Tumblr post that ends up screenshotted and then reposted to a Tumblr meme blog, I'm hoping it'll be for something slightly less stupid than this. If you're trying to catch a house cat that's gone outside, don't forget, they're an ambush predator and you're a persistence predator. You have several times more endurance than they do. Use that to your advantage. Don't run after them. That's playing to the cat's strengths, and vigorous pursuit may cause them to hide. Instead, follow them at a brisk walking pace until they get tired and need to have a lie down, at which point, you can simply pick them up and take them home. Okay, but no crap, this tactic is what allowed humans to survive pre-civilization. Some mammoth, chilling, eating grass, mammothing. Cave dude, power walks towards them. Mammoth, oh sit. Cat, haha, you can't outrun me. Human. Discord server for silent video game protagonists. Chell, Doomguy, Link, Samus, and Master Chief are all in the server, and not one of them has ever sent a message in it. They all consider the others to be their closest friends. There's a channel where Red sends pictures of all of his Pokemon, and they'll get a thumbs up emoji react from everyone else. Eventually, Link starts posting selfies in the most crazy places, with monsters in the background about to hit him, or close-ups of plants and small critters. They also get a thumbs up react. Nothing else is said. The Knight from Hollow Knight is on the server. They never post or even give anything the thumbs up react, except for the occasional bug-type Pokemon. One time, Link uploaded an image of a sunrise, and the Knight gave it the only thumbs down react anyone has ever gotten in the entire server. The resulting drama, consisting entirely of a single screenshot of the thumbs down react and a series of exclamation point reacts, nearly tore the server apart. Nobody in Miami knows how to drive. Nobody in Austin knows how to drive. Nobody in Chicago knows how to drive. Maybe we shouldn't have cars. Maybe we should find people who are good at driving and give them really big cars, and then people can just pay a small fee to be driven around the city, maybe in a regular loop, so people always know where they'll be at certain times of the day. But what if those really big cars were also really long and fast? And what if they ran on electricity, but what to call them? Fantabulous looping electromnibus. I like the way you think.